Welcome to Overwatch, and welcome to another episode of Coffee Break. I know it's been a little while, but coming back from New York sort of re-energized me a little bit, and I saw this little spicy bit of drama, and I'm sort of looking over it again now. It was sort of starting up last night before I went to bed, and I thought, it's kind of interesting. Now it seems to have exploded into this whole thing. So what's happened? Well, in the shiny world of Overwatch League esports, London Spitfire, they want to do a fan meet, and they want to do a fan meet specifically in Seoul, South Korea. This is after their win, of course, in the championship, so they want to go and do this as soon as possible, and especially with the Korean contenders sort of circuit ending, this seems like a really good time to arrange one. The issue is that Seoul Dynasty have turned around and said, no, you can't do a fan meet in Seoul. This is where our team is based. And London turned around and said, well, do you want to do one together? And Seoul said no. Now, Seoul are within their rights to do this as per their contract with Overwatch League, right? They spent $20 million for the slot. They spent maybe even more than $20 million for the slot, getting that Seoul region on lock. That is their region, their city. And London have come along and said, well, we want to do a fan meet there before even going to London, for example, as well. Now, the reason why this drama's popped up is because this was all aired in public by General Manager of London Spitfire, Susie Kim, who came out on Twitter and said that, yeah, we want to do a fan meet in Seoul, we want to come back and meet all our fans, but, well, Seoul won't let us. And a lot of people have found, basically, that this, or determined, I suppose, that this is unprofessional, that somehow this is an attack on Seoul Dynasty. So those are basically the facts. Like, this is basically how it's been outlined. I've heard some misinformation as well, like, oh, Susie put these tweets out just in English, and she wants people to attack Seoul. No, she's put them out in both Korean and English. She's basically explained to the London fan base that, hey, yeah, this is why we can't do it. But this is really blown up. A lot of people are going, basically, why are you attacking Seoul Dynasty for this decision? Now then, I can totally understand almost the befuddlement, right? London are the London team, so, you know, let's take a look at this. Okay, so it's London's job to basically court the London fan base. That's what they should be doing. This is sort of, you know, having your cake and eating it too, right? You've got these Korean players, you have this Korean-centered core to London. You can't then also go and court the Korean fan base. You have to go and court the London one, and you've already left yourself in a difficult position with those Korean players, right? This is a constant problem for London Spitfire, is that trying to market these Korean players to London is extremely difficult. The other thing that people tend to comment on is that it's weird for them to want to do a fan meet in Korea before doing one in London. Personally, I think that argument doesn't quite hold weight. I see people equating it to, oh, well, if Philadelphia win the Super Bowl and then go celebrate in Boston, then isn't that weird? Really not the same magnitudes there. Like, American football teams have way bigger budgets and can do whatever the hell they want. The esports teams tend to run on a shoestring budget before you say, oh, well, they could pay $20 million, they could do what they like. Not how it works. Really not how it works. That's a really ignorant viewpoint. Like maximizing efficiency of trips and stuff like that. All the players on London Spitfire, as far as I'm aware, probably most of the coaching staff as well, is probably headed back to Korea for like a month or two, right? They want to re-energize, link up with their friends in Korea, and just sort of rejuvenate. So everyone's going to Korea anyway. You've got Korean contenders ending around that time. It's the perfect place to just say, okay, well, guys, everyone get into Seoul, and we'll do a fan meet on these dates, right? Seems really, really simple. That, to me, I don't have an issue with. Like, I think that the argument that, oh, they should be doing one in London first is just a little bit ignorant, considering the cost of transatlantic flights, considering the difficulty of arranging events as well. I don't see the argument there holding too much water, and especially equating it to other mainstream sports teams really doesn't hold water. The budgets are completely different. The other argument that I've heard is, why not do it in Busan instead? Because there's basically two major cities in Korea. One is Seoul, one is Busan. The reason why they don't want to do it in Busan, of course, is because it'll just be a lot more awkward. So you've got like Korean contenders happening. You want to get people on a train to go and meet London and then go back to watch more Korean contenders. How do you arrange that? It's all a little bit weird. Basically, Seoul Dynasty have like a 100-kilometer exclusion zone around Korea that they can technically own. I don't know whether like Nate Nanz has like a global map somewhere where everything's painted in. It's like looking at, you know, Crusader Kings 2 or something, and oh, this belongs to Viscount Seoul Dynasty. You can't enter this territory. You don't have like military access. Haha. Like that seems to be the case here. Okay, but either way, they don't want to do it in Busan. They want to do it in Seoul. They also suggested, I believe, to Seoul, hey, let's do a joint fan meet then. Like, let's just both pool our resources and do a joint event. Seoul said no. Now, the drama here seems to be that in a lot of people thinking that this is very unprofessional by Susie, that Susie shouldn't have brought this out into public. That basically by doing this, that she's pointing people at Seoul and basically making Seoul look like the bad guys, despite Seoul doing what's in their own interest, right? Seoul want to protect their own region. They paid for that region. They don't want other teams coming in and almost courting the fan base there and saying, hey, yeah, you should support us instead. This is also a big thing with the Overwatch League as a whole, like how important is geolocation to the Overwatch League, because what you've got to consider is, well, there's nothing stopping London Spitfire basically ignoring London. This is hypothetical, I'm not saying this is happening. Basically going, let's just ignore London and let's just focus on appealing to the Seoul fan base. Or let's say you have a team like Florida Mayhem just ignoring Florida and appealing to the LA fan base, for example, where the league is based, where it'll be a lot cheaper to just reach out to the LA fans instead of worrying about their home region. They can just kind of ignore it. I don't know if LA Valiant, for example, have this same right of exclusion because the arena is based in LA. Do teams, if they want to do a fan meet, have to go through LA Gladiators and LA Valiant? I imagine LA Gladiators and Valiant don't have to go through each other, but the LA case, like this is why the LA case is a bit special. The other question I have to ask is what happens when there's a grand finals? Like, this makes deciding whether grand finals is even more important. For example, I know that New York Excelsior had an event while the grand finals were going. They had a fan meetup, they had like a party as well, and they had like a store, like a pop-up store that was opened as well that was apparently doing great business where they could sell all their merchandise. So this means that wherever the grand finals is held, can other teams like go and fly out there? Like, it would be a great little moment to have a bunch of teams turn up and do their own fan meets at that time. Could New York Excelsior turned around and gone, no, you can't do that. You can't do that fan meet here because this is our region. But it feels like it's just Overwatch League's decision to put the finals there. Does that mean Overwatch League now has a responsibility to put the finals in somewhere that a team doesn't own? Does that mean that those rules are waived if that is the finals location? For how long does that happen? How does that work? How do NYXL feel about that when they lose one of their rights in their contract? Like, there's a weird sort of thing happening there as well that makes me sort of curious about, okay, well, if the finals next time are in London, can London deny the ability for people to do fan meets there, even if London aren't involved in the finals, as is the case with NYXL, right? NYXL were not in the finals. Could NYXL turn around, or did NYXL turn around to all the other teams go, no, you can't do fan mates here? So that's something to sort of keep an eye on. To me, this all comes down, though, to that geolocation aspect, right? That London have sort of made their bed, they want to, and they have to lie in it now, right? They have this Korean team, this Korean core. Sure, there's a Korean fan base, but they can't court those Korean fans, and this is determined by Seoul Dynasty. They sort of almost bought the rights to those fan base, or at least bought the rights to first attempt with that fan base. What I will say is it still seems a little bit strange to me. Personally, like, I see Seoul, and this is where my opinions are coming into this more or less so than fact. It seems weird to me to Seoul to not even do like a joint fan meet. Like, I think this would be a perfect opportunity for a joint fan meet, partially because of my understanding of how the league is monetized. The league is monetized by, let's say you buy a Seoul Dynasty shirt, well, 1/12 of that goes to Seoul, 1/12 of that goes to London, 1/12 of that goes to San Francisco Shock, 1/12 of that goes to Boston, 1/12 of that, so on, so on, so on, so on, right? It's all divvied up amongst the teams. Basically, the merchandising sales are all lumped together and then split out amongst the teams. So if the teams are popular, if the teams are doing well, and you're selling more merch, you're selling more shirts, then that's good for everybody. So if a fan comes to a Seoul Dynasty and London Spitfire meetup and buy both a Spitfire shirt and a Seoul shirt, that's really good for the league. That's actually better for your team than just them buying a Seoul shirt. Sounds almost evil and manipulative, but that's kind of how this works, right? That's the business aspect of this. The other thing is this, that I haven't seen London ignoring London. I haven't seen London ignoring the UK. They've been actively trying to reach out to the UK. This is why Stylosa works with them. This is why they have British Hurricane be British Hurricane, has lots of British players on it, and they have like this very big system built around it. This is why they work with Code Red Esports, which is not only sort of, you know, a talent agency, but it's also like a marketing department and stuff like that that will work with London Spitfire to help them reach out to this European audience. Now, what I don't disagree with is that this is slightly throwing Seoul under the bus, right? There is this effect on the internet where if you sort of call someone out, then your fan base, such as it exists, will go and almost attack whatever you call out here. So Susie doing this has basically painted a target onto Seoul Dynasty, but I think that this is just an aspect of Seoul Dynasty's decision. I don't think Susie is in the wrong, and there is nothing in her contract, as far as I'm aware, that makes this wrong sort of contractually, that she cannot say, yes, we want to do a fan meet in Seoul, but the reason why is because Seoul Dynasty says no. I also don't think that it's unfair for Seoul Dynasty to do that, though. I think it's a little bit illogical, perhaps, but, you know, that's just up to them. Maybe they've done the calculations and figured out that maybe it's better for them to just exclude the other teams from the Seoul region as much as possible. That's in their best interest. That's how they're going to act, right? That's how businesses work. So personally, I don't see this being a huge factor of being like a huge amount in the wrong here. I know that Susie Kim sort of entered the public spotlight previously when Fisher sort of made the comment, the sort of the spicy banter of "do you regret it?" and Susie Kim basically just said no. How much weight there was to that, who knows, but again, people found that remark slightly unprofessional. Maybe this is an ongoing thing, maybe this is going to be an issue going forward. I personally don't see it hugely. I think it's just a remark that fell a little bit flat. Sometimes these remarks do, and I think in this case, I don't see Susie necessarily being in the wrong here. It's one of those weird things that I think if people just sort of shrugged and went, oh, okay, well, Seoul Dynasty aren't going to let them, that's a little bit of a dick move, but okay, whatever, and didn't go, oh, Susie's doing something so wrong here, I think it would all blow over and it will be a lot less of a thing. But by making it a big thing, it's sort of raising awareness that Seoul Dynasty did this thing that made Susie do this thing, and suddenly it's all a lot bigger than it needs to be. It's like the circus around the actual event is bigger than the event itself, and that's often the case with drama, and oftentimes is the case with all and far too many things, to be honest. But let me know what you guys think. Is Susie overstepping her bounds? Why is she overstepping her bounds? She seems to be within her rights to say that Seoul turned that down. Are Seoul within the rights? Should there be the exclusion rights? Does the geolocation matter that much, the way you can exclude other teams from your region for running events or doing small, especially like a small event like a fan meetup, at least just this once? Like, can everyone get one freebie? Should that be the case? Who knows? How should it be run? What should be happening here, guys? Is Susie in the wrong? Is Susie in the right? I suppose is the biggest question overall, though. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I've been Josh. It's one voice amongst many. Thanks for listening in, and I'll see you next time. Toodles.